You're listening to Raceway Ministries Today. Thanks for joining us for Raceway Ministries Today. In just a few moments, we're going to give you the latest of what's going on in motorsports outreach through the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries. I would like to welcome everyone to this edition of Raceway Ministries Today. I hope everybody is having a good day today, and we're having a great day because we are going to be tuned in to the Rolex 24. It's our honor and our privilege today to be on the phone with Grey Scofield. Grey and Dawn Marie Scofield have been directors of Central Florida Raceway Ministries for several years, and this is the beginning of several racing weekends at Daytona International Speedway, and I know that they are very busy people with all this racing going on. And as we speak, Grey Scofield is sitting trackside at the Rolex 24 at Daytona International Speedway. Grey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Roger, and thank you for the opportunity to allow us to speak to you this morning. Appreciate everything you do with the NFRM.
Well, it's my joy and my pleasure, and I tell you, one of the things that makes it such a pleasure is to be around folks like you. As you very well know, we have some very stable groups that are involved with us in National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries, and in many cases, the leadership has to come and go. But you and Dawn Marie have been plugged in there at Daytona International for a long time and have done a fantastic job of offering leadership for that team and building good relationships with the staff there at DIS, and we are so grateful for you and for Dawn Marie. So let me begin by just asking a couple of questions about you guys. Now, Grey, I'm trying to pinpoint the year that you guys got involved with Central Florida Raceway Ministries, but I can't put my finger on it. How long have you all been involved with CFRM? And if you don't mind, how did that get started?
Well, I can't tell you the exact year. I'd have to go back and look at some of the notes I have, but I believe it's right around 12 years.
Wow.
So, of course, we are a partnership of our local association, which is the Halifax Baptist Association, which is currently 28 churches that all partner together to come out here and do the ministry. So we had somebody come speak to the church and about people helping and volunteering at the ministry. So we thought we would try something different in life, and we came out to the Speedway. And not saying that we're such great race fans to watch the race, but we're fans of people and Jesus. So we came out here, and it was opportunity to do a lot more stuff and to take over the ministry and try some new things and challenges, and that's what we went with. And like I say, we've been out here a while, and it's a great opportunity for all of us. A great opportunity to minister to the people and we don't have much contact with the drivers in Daytona, but to the fans and the people here and the staff, and we've had prayer with the fire services and other people out here. And sometimes it's just, being part of the community as well as it is ministering to the people.
Well, you're exactly right, and it's all about relationships. We've kind of beat that drum for a long time, and it's probably the largest common denominator across the board with all of our raceway ministry teams is to build relationships with those people. And as you well know, there are specific organizations that deal with the drivers probably more than we do, and we focus on fans, staff, and that sort of thing. But I deeply appreciate the long-term commitment that you guys have made. Actually, the ministry at Daytona has been around for a long time. I believe it was back in the late 70s, early 80s when Frank Stark was out there for a race event just as a pastor, and he observed in the campground that famous quote that we often refer to, somebody ought to be doing something. And so he began a chapel service out there in the campground, and as it turns out, that developed into ministry, and as I've indicated, we've had several leaders come and go. You guys have been the most consistent and the most stable, and of course that's what's required to build those relationships. Let me hit on one other thing that you just mentioned for the benefit of our listeners, because I think it's so important. You said that you guys aren't that great of race fans, and I know you like racing, and I know Dawn Marie likes racing, and y'all get excited crowded when you go out there. But, I don't guess I've ever been out there and seen you flaunting driver caps and T-shirts and coats and, acting like a race fan, as some people do when they're involved in ministry, which that's okay. But all that to say, you don't have to be a dyed-in-the-wool race fan to get out there and do ministry. Loving people, loving the Lord, and loving the opportunity to share Jesus with them is really what that's all about. It just happens to be at a raceway, and you guys have been dedicated to that for sure. Now, Grey, there are several things that I want to talk about here. I want to talk about your ministry at Daytona in several different ways. I also want to refer to your ministry at New Smyrna, because we have one of the largest parts of our effort is to try to also reach the local tracks where regional series run, dirt tracks and that kind of thing. And you guys have been very involved at New Smyrna, so I want to refer to that. But let me ask you, if you would, to describe to us, in a nutshell, a ministry weekend before pandemic there at Daytona. Just a word for our listeners. How many days are you guys out there at Daytona? And I want you to refer to that because it's a unique situation with you, because the Rolex week kind of kicks off race season, but it doesn't stop for your ministry after the Rolex weekend is over. It's a long, long weekend. So before the pandemic, what's ministry like for you guys at Daytona in February?
Okay, so in January, the race to the 24 hours,
right,
which we are currently in. We will be out here this week for 5 days, the race, and then they'll shut down and kind of goes by the Super Bowl schedule. When they're going to open back up. And then we'll be back out in February, or it's usually 12 to 14 days for the 500. But this year they've added another race, so it'll be a little bit longer.
I noticed that on the schedule. So for this year, January Rolex, February you've got the big Daytona 500, and then you come back and do a Daytona road course event. So,
right.
Okay, now before the pandemic, and having been out there before, you guys are fully engaged out there in the campground. Now, my experiences down there with you have included your tent setup, a lot of activity at the tent with coffee and pancake breakfasts, worship services, music concerts, interacting with the fans as they drive into the campground, transporting people on ADA carts and offering transportation and a number of things. Has that kind of activity held up before the pandemic? Have y'all continued to do those sort of things out there in the campground?
We have, Roger, and it's all about opportunities to be able to share with people and building bridges, and we just look for different ways. Like I said, we have the tent, we have the chapel service, and we use the tent to the best availability that we can. We try to do a game night, maybe when we have the July race, because we would have kids out.
Yeah.
And so we do different things. We'd have a potluck supper, try to do that. We would try to put together, we have a little go-kart track down the street. We would try to put together like a go-kart challenge and have trophies. And
wow.
So it's about, connection. One thing we did, we always did an ice cream social because they could obviously bring their pets. And we had banana splits and ice cream for the dogs. And I can't remember what year it is. I guess maybe 3 years now. But when the motor went through the fence.
Yes.
When they had the big race, we were having that ice cream social, and I heard what happened on the radio from the track. So we probably had, I would guess, maybe 40 people here that had their animal pets. And I shared with everybody what had happened. I said, I don't know if you know any kind of injuries yet or anything like that, but all the people that we hardly even knew, I said, well, let's just all gather up, hold hands, and we all prayed for everything that happened. So it's all about opportunities or making your opportunities, giving out tracts. And sometimes you don't have a lot of time with people, and I like to joke around and do a lot of stuff, and giving out tracts, and the good track one is the What Do You Know track that you guys have had. I can't remember the exact name of it, but you can start to hand it to the gentleman that's with the lady, and he won't take it. But you can hand it to her, and you can say, you can see how much he really knows about NASCAR, and she'll take it.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of in the marketing, but it's all about, the amount of time that you have and figuring out how you're going to get out the information you have and how you're going to bring people in, talk to them, and what you can do and build that bridge.
Absolutely. Well, you guys have come up with lots of creative ways to do that. I recall some of the times that I've been at Daytona, lots of people would come by and get dog treats for their dogs when they were out walking them. And the go-kart
Oh, yeah.
thing, what a great idea to go down the street and go to a go-kart track and have some kind of competition for people, and just a way to connect. So, man, my hat's off to you and Dawn Marie for all the many, many ways that you all have connected with people down through the years. And it's a lot of fun to be there with you and to watch all that unfold as well. Now, after the pandemic began, obviously in January and February of 2020, it probably wasn't such an issue. But when the pandemic set in, how did that impact you guys in your ministry there at Daytona? I guess especially coming up to the July race in the middle of the year and maybe all points in between. How did that impact y'all's ability to share the Lord out there?
Well, as you know, it's a different world. And like I said, in January, February, we were pretty much normal. Everything was the same. Then things changed. So
Sure.
they moved that race to August. So we were moved to August.
Okay.
And there wasn't any opportunities for us because that was a high time at the time that they were having, high numbers as far as the COVID going. And
Yes.
so nobody really knew exactly what they were going to do. The Speedway didn't know what they could do. So we ended up not being able to do anything out here administry-wise.
Wow.
Because they were limited, I think it was 20,000 people, something like that. But the Speedway was having trouble finding anybody to come out really and kind of help them also because people were afraid to get sick.
Right.
So they approached us and asked us as the ministry, could we come out and take temperature checks as the guests come through. So I sent out an email, and that's not a whole lot of our people truly wanted to come out because they were afraid too.
Sure.
But, we had like 12 of us, and when I sent the email out, I said, we're not really doing a lot of ministry at this, I guess you can't say ministry, but sharing of the gospel at that time, but we were helping the track, and we needed to, be a part of the community as the congregation of churches also.
Absolutely.
So we just need to support the track and do what we can and let them know that we're here, even though we can't go out and hear the gospel so much because it was just taking a temperature and letting them go through. And, we would be overstepping our boundaries at that point.
Sure.
I think if we, tried to share the gospel, do anything more than do what they asked us to do.
Absolutely. You make a great point there, and I think it's something that our listeners may need to really understand. Even though your ministry opportunity may be cut back because of circumstances such as COVID, that doesn't mean that you don't continue to serve the needs at the Speedway. Go and do what you can. You're still building relationships, and those relationships will pay big dividends as time goes by. And even though there may not be a lot of regular fan interaction like you've normally had in a normal year, to be able to go out there and serve the raceway, serve the fans, be a face for the ministry in their presence and meet needs, even though you may not have opportunities to share the gospel as you did before, that's something that we just have to do. And man, I admire you guys for heading out to the Speedway and doing what you can, even in the midst of limited times. Now, let me ask you, what kind of things do y'all have going on this weekend at the Rolex? I know that's probably a little bit different than maybe the NASCAR events out there, but what are you guys up to this weekend out there with the Rolex going on?
Okay, so like we said, everything is completely different. So we have to wear masks. So as the ministry, we also had to sign that we were going to wear masks and that the, of course, Speedway wouldn't be responsible if anybody got the COVID. But
Sure.
So everybody has to wear masks. There is no social distancing. So
Okay.
they did not put the tent up for us. We cannot do any kind of services at all.
Okay.
So all that is limited on the amount of stuff we can do. We still are doing the handicap cart.
Okay.
Which they limited us the number of carts, and you can only take one site or one family at a time. So anybody just can't jump on, and nobody on the front seat. So it's pretty limited. But I'll tell you, the place is packed. There's no tent camping, but the infield is pretty much absolutely full.
Good.
But other than that, I mean, we're still. We have a trailer. We're giving out coffee. We're giving out donuts. We're talking to people. We have a prayer board that we always have up. I think
Sure.
we have probably 12 prayer requests that we have on the board from guests that had written on there and
Good.
talking to people. So we're just not able to do a lot of things that we could connect different camper to camper to us as far as activities go.
Right. Well, sounds like you still have plenty going on, and the obvious answer to all that is do as much as you can while you have the opportunity, and it sounds like y'all are making the most of that, and that's what counts. Now, looking down the road, to the rest of 2021. Do y'all have any ideas at this point what the policies and guidelines are going to be for the stands, for the campgrounds, and have you given thought to what ministry is going to look like on down the way through the schedule during the normal NASCAR events?
I thought about it and asked, but I'm not getting a whole lot of information about it. And as far as COVID cases are in Florida, they're going up a little bit, so
okay,
things could close down a little bit more. I'm just not sure. So that as far as all those decisions go, it's not so much the local guys that I would deal with, so I wouldn't get a whole lot of information. It's all above them. But
sure,
I got a feeling the mask rule is going to be here for a long time.
Right.
But whether or not they let us do the tent and go back to social gatherings, I think that's all going to be dependent part on the state and what kind of case numbers that we have here.
Right. Well, the good thing about your long-term relationship there and your long-term involvement in ministry out there in the campground at Daytona is no matter which way it goes, you're going to be somewhat prepared for it. And I say that in a kind of a qualified way because there's no way to be specifically fully prepared for whatever they pull out of the hat. And so much of that is unknown. But you guys have great relations with staff there at Speedway, so I'm certain they'll keep you apprised of what the situation's going to be. And then y'all have your regular contacts and resources and creative ideas, I guess you might say, on standby to be prepared to do whatever they allow you to do. A little bit of a scramble to maybe pull it all together. But you guys are very organized, and I think you'll be able to pull it off all right. Now, how many events will y'all be out there for? Obviously, the 500 and then the road course event there with NASCAR, and then I guess NASCAR will be back there in the summertime. Haven't looked at my schedule to see whether it's July or August this year. I believe it's July. But will y'all have any other events going on out there besides the NASCAR events at Daytona?
We don't. But
okay.
Dawn Marie and I may come out, and if they have another road course, sometimes they have like Ferrari testing and
right.
stuff like that. So, we'll come out, see if we can do anything to help if they need any help. And,
sure.
And for some of the testing and other stuff that goes on here, somebody leasing the track, they have like Turkey Rod Run, they call it, with his car show and car parts, and
right.
That's somebody that just comes in and leases the track from them. So there's a lot of that happens. I don't go to the Turkey Rod Run. So
yeah, sure.
I mean, there are obviously a lot of opportunities out here, but when you back up and look, I'm at New Smyrna Speedway every Saturday night anyway, so
yeah.
I only have so much time.
Well, Daytona's a busy place, probably one of the busiest speedways all across the circuit with all the different activities that they have there. And you guys stay in touch with them, and I know you know what's going on there, and I know they can call on you, and they know they can call on you if there were any needs at all. We're talking with Grey Scofield. Grey and Dawn Marie are directors of Central Florida Raceway Ministries, and they're currently, as we speak, at the Daytona Speedway in the midst of the Rolex 24 weekend. And they've taken a few moments out of their busy weekend to speak with us, and we're very, very grateful for that. Grey, thank you, and Dawn, for all that you do there at DIS. But as you just referred to, y'all also are active out at New Smyrna. Tell us a little bit about your ministry there at New Smyrna. How'd y'all get into that, and what do you do out there?
Well, New Smyrna is kind of another whole world. So, you know the difference between the big track and the short track. So we just happened to venture out there one day, and I've been out there years and years before, but not doing any ministry. I had a friend that was a race car driver. So we just happened to venture out there because there wasn't anything to do on a Saturday night, and I met up with, they had a chaplain there, and he was really coming out there doing the invocation, and that was about it. And so I approached him and asked him, could we come in there and partner with him?
Yeah.
And we didn't want to step on his toes, but we would do stuff with the kids.
Sure.
So that's really where it started involved, and we came into some kids programs and worked with the kids, and then that gentleman that was there, he lived an hour away, and he decided that he would come in once in a while, help us out, and he would allow us to go ahead and take it over. We didn't ask him to do that, but he just felt in his heart that it was time to make that change.
Okay. Well, New Smyrna is a very active track, one of the most popular tracks for regional series, and I was on Facebook not too long ago, and I think there was a video of you there doing the invocation, and you did an outstanding job with that. What's a weekend like out there at New Smyrna? When do you all go out there? When do they race? What kind of activities do you have beyond maybe the invocation?
Okay, well, before the pandemic, I did the driver meeting prayer, and then we did the invocation, and we did stuff with the kids and connected with the fans, and a lot of times I was in the pits, obviously, with the drivers and talking to them and seeing if I could help them in any way.
Right.
And after the pandemic, things changed a little bit. No social gathering. We shut down probably only, actually, we had January, February races we were good with, and then we probably March is when the order was, executive order, we had to close. It really not have any fans out there, but in June we were open back up, so we pretty much had a pretty good season still out there last year. We just couldn't do anything with the kids, or still a lot of social distancing was going on.
Right.
The fans obviously were taped off in places you couldn't sit, and so I spent a lot of time, probably more in the pits than I did talking to people in the stands, the drivers in the pits, and they were everybody talking. They nobody was wearing masks, and it was just kind of business as usual out there at the pit.
Good. So how many weeks of racing there at New Smyrna? Do you guys start in January, go pretty much all year long? What's the schedule like out there?
They have what they call a red eye in January, which is the beginning of the year. It's not part of the regular point season. It's just a different race. And then we had an enduro race, and we're going to, so we've had 3 races already, and we will have, I think it's 8 or 9 nights of racing out there the same time that Daytona is going on, so I'll be juggling my time back and forth best as I can.
Wow.
And they're actually going to have a race night on the Super Bowl, so I don't know how that one will work out, but
wow.
hopefully it works out good.
Well, you guys are busy, and to enlighten our listeners to understand and put into context how busy Raceway Ministry can be, you and Dawn Marie, I mean, you have like normal jobs, and y'all have kids and grandkids, and y'all have all that kind of stuff that life demands going on, not to mention your commitment to your church family, and yet you squeeze in time to do all these ministry things at the Speedway. Obviously, that's a passion. Obviously, that's a calling for you guys, and I know it keeps you very busy. Do y'all ever get tired?
I guess, not too much, but, time is like money. You put it where you want, and that's where you spend it, and, we're happy to do it. A typical Saturday night at New Smyrna, which is a half-mile asphalt track,
right,
is getting out there probably at the gates open at 2 o'clock. I try to get out there 4 or 5 o'clock, somewhere in there, because most of them are setting up and tuning up, and you're really kind of getting in their way other than that with them unloading the trailers and all that stuff. But
sure.
So then usually we have a driver's meeting close to 7 o'clock, and then at 7:20 invocation, and we'll start racing.
Wow.
Usually runs till 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock, which I don't really sometimes get stale with times. I got to get up early in the morning on Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Well, anybody that, and I'm sure you would agree with this, anybody that wants to get involved in Raceway Ministries better be prepared to spend time and to be consistent with it. Let me ask you a question. Have you discovered that being consistent in your trips to the raceway, your involvement at the raceway, pays good dividends as far as effectiveness in ministry out there? I mean, what would it be like if you only showed up every once in a while?
Yeah, you have to be consistent to come out there, and that's the way you're going to build that relationship and get to know those people as far as the fans, the staff, and you definitely have to be consistent. I guess really on the downside of that is when you're the guy there, then everybody calls you. It's kind of like, if you're the pastor of the church, you get all the calls that sometimes you don't want. So
yeah, that's right.
So sometimes you got to figure out how to, put some of those duties on somebody else also, share that stuff.
That's exactly right. Yeah, if you try to shoulder that by yourself, you're going to get in trouble real quick in terms of the load of work. So you definitely have to share that. Great insight. Wow. You guys are so committed to it, and I appreciate y'all so much. I know in the past when you all have attended our annual meetings, you've even done that in the midst of the time that you were celebrating your wedding anniversaries. I remember particularly, I think it was down in Nashville, we had a meeting there, and you guys were there at the meeting and had sacrificed your wedding anniversary to be there, and we were just in awe that you would do that. I think that reflects the kind of commitment that you guys have made
What do you mean by sacrifice? We were happy to do it. We got a trip out of it, right?
Hey, you did. So it was a free
We were
anniversary
on
vacation in
and just
Nashville.
got sidelined on a job, you know. And when you come out to Daytona, everybody has to work. We had this guy come, Roger Marsh, and we were going to have him do the service, the chapel service, but we made him hold his own sign to advertise that he was having that chapel service. So everybody has to do something.
Yeah, it's a sacrifice on the part of everybody. I get it, yeah. Well, I got to tell you, we've had a lot of fun with you guys through the years in addition to partnering in the work. In fact, last night I was telling Marcia and my son Travis that I had a podcast interview with you at 7 o'clock this morning Texas time, and my son was like, man, that sure is early for a podcast interview. And I said, well, man, he's at the Rolex 24. And then Marcia spoke up and said, oh, Dawn Marie is one of my favorite people in all the world. We've had so much fun.
Mine too.
We have.
Well, you know, you guys are welcome to come down any time you'd like. You can stay with us. We've got these empty bedrooms upstairs anymore, except for when the grandkids come. When the grandkids come, you're not welcome, though. I have to put that out.
I understand. Yeah, well, we'd love to come down there and join you guys, whether it's a race weekend or not. Just come out and hang out with you. Well, listen, Gray, I'm going to let you go. I know you got stuff to do and busy weekend going on, but man, I got to tell you, thanks so much for taking the time to visit this morning. You made some great points about some of the big issues that are important in Raceway Ministries work, and you guys have filled the bill and fulfilled the task in lots of different ways. Our prayers are with you this weekend. Pray that God will use you wherever you are to reach people, whether it's on a golf cart or there at the Prayer Request Board, or whatever the case may be, and we'll sure be praying for you as you get geared up for the Daytona 500.
All right, Roger, I appreciate everything you do for trying to get all the ministries connected together. You're doing a great job.
Well, thank you so very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you down the road somewhere. And to all of our listeners out there, thanks so much for joining us here at Raceway Ministries today. And we've been talking with Grey Scofield, Director of Central Florida Raceway Ministries. He is involved at Daytona International Speedway as well as the new Smyrna Speedway. And you can contact Central Florida Raceway Ministries. Some of their contact information is at halifaxbaptist.org/Raceway Ministries. And you can get in touch with Grey himself at ScofieldCFRM@AOL.com. You might want to check out their Facebook page. It's Central Florida Raceway Ministries, and take a look at all the things they have going on. Meanwhile, if you need to reach us with the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries, our website is racewayministries.org. We also have a Facebook page, National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries, and a YouTube channel that goes by the same name. And you can get in touch with us through any of those means, and we'll be posting all of our podcasts on the YouTube channel. But thanks so much for listening today, and we'll see you someday in Victory Circle. Well, thanks so much for tuning in for today's podcast. We'll look forward to having you join us for the next edition of Raceway Ministries Today.